So, you want to disappear a person, not fire them, not divorce them, not move to a different city and never return their calls. You want a human being to stop existing permanently, and you want somebody else to do it. Here is the first number you need to know. The FBI investigates between 100 and 150 murder-for-hire cases every single year in the United States. And in the vast majority of those cases, the hitman you think you hired is a federal agent. Not was. Is. Right now, as you are watching this, there is an FBI agent somewhere in America pretending to be a contract killer, recording a conversation on a wire, and waiting for someone to hand over a photograph of their spouse. So, how much does it cost? How do people find a hitman? Why does it almost never work? And what is the real price you pay when the person who disappears turns out to be you? If you're enjoying this video, subscribe. It helps more than you think. Let's start with what people actually pay. According to FBI press releases and court filings, quoted fees in American murder-for-hire cases range from $600 to $200,000. $600. That is less than a set of tires. Someone offered to end a human life for the price of a bad alternator. The most common range, based on cases that actually reach federal court, sits between $5,000 and $25,000. A 2003 study by the Australian Institute of Criminology, one of the only academic reviews of contract killing ever published, found that the average payment to a hired killer was about $15,000, and more than half of all contract killers received less than $9,000. That is the going rate. And here's the number underneath the number. In that same Australian data set, only 7 out of 10 attempted contract killings actually succeeded. 30% of the time, you pay, and it does not happen. Either the person you hired runs, or they botch it, or they were never going to do it in the first place. So the baseline is this. You are paying somewhere between $5,000 and $25,000 for a 70% chance that a stranger will commit the most heavily investigated crime in the country on a person who can be directly connected back to you. Now, where do people find these hitmen? This is the hidden gate, and once you see it, the entire thing falls apart. There is no marketplace. There is no directory. There is no encrypted app where verified contract killers advertise services and accept Bitcoin. Every single pathway to hiring a hitman leads, almost without exception, to one of 3 places. The first? Someone you know. This is how the majority of murder-for-hire cases begin. You tell a friend, a coworker, a guy you met at a bar, a cousin, an ex-boyfriend. You ask if they know someone, and then one of 2 things happens. Either that person goes directly to law enforcement, or that person goes to someone who goes to law enforcement. In either case, the next call you receive is from an undercover FBI agent pretending to be the guy who knows a guy. A Houston investigator named Gary Johnson spent 20 years posing as a hitman. He was introduced to more than 60 different people who wanted someone killed. 60. One man. 20 years. His negotiated fees ranged from $200,000 in diamonds offered by a socialite who wanted her oil-heir husband dead, all the way down to 7 Atari computer games, $3 bills, and $2.30 in nickels and dimes, offered by a teenager who wanted to eliminate a romantic rival. Every single one of those 60 people thought they had found a real killer. They had found a man with a tape recorder and a badge. The second pathway. The dark web. This is the one that people think is different. Anonymous browsers. Encrypted messages. Cryptocurrency payments. Surely somewhere in the digital underground there are professionals who do this for a living? There are not. The most notorious example is a website called Besa Mafia. It operated on the dark web for years, claiming to connect customers with Albanian hitmen. Prices ranged from $5,000 to $200,000, making it look like an accident cost an extra $4,000. Just a beating was $500. Setting a car on fire, $1,000. In April 2016, a hacker breached Besa Mafia's database and posted the entire thing online. 250 user accounts, 38 hit orders, nearly 3,000 private messages between customers and administrators. Not a single confirmed killing had ever been carried out. The site had taken money, stalled for time, and then asked for more money. It was, from beginning to end, a scam. And here is the detail that should chill you. When law enforcement reviewed those leaked messages, they found that the site's administrators had also been cooperating with the FBI. In one message, the administrator described the operation as a honeypot for criminals. So, you logged on to the dark web to hire a killer. The killer's website stole your money. Then it gave your name, your address, your photograph, and the name of the person you wanted dead to the FBI. Ross Ulbricht, the founder of the Silk Road Marketplace, made the same mistake on a larger scale. According to federal prosecutors, Ulbricht paid over $500,000 in Bitcoin to a user called Red and White, supposedly a connected hitman with access to professional killers. Ulbricht wanted several people dead, including an employee he believed had stolen from the platform and a drug dealer who was threatening to expose thousands of Silk Road users. The murders never happened. Not one. The photographs Ulbricht received as proof of the killings were staged. The money was gone, and the entire transaction was later introduced as evidence in his trial, where he was sentenced to life in prison. He has since been pardoned, but the lesson remains. $500,000. 0 bodies. 1 life sentence. In 2022, Romanian authorities arrested 5 men alleged to have operated Beza Mafia. The site had collected an unknown amount of Bitcoin over the years. It had never employed a single killer. The third pathway. You do it yourself. But that is a different video. And it ends the same way. So, here is the mechanism, and this is the part nobody wants to hear. The reason there is no functioning marketplace for contract killing in America is not because the FBI is particularly good at shutting them down. It is because the entire business model is structurally broken. Think about what you are asking a stranger to do. Commit first-degree murder, the most investigated crime in existence, against a person they have no connection to, for a payment that will create a financial link between you and them, using a communication channel that the FBI already monitors. Every piece of the transaction is evidence. The phone call is evidence. The text message is evidence. The search history is evidence. The cash withdrawal is evidence. The cryptocurrency transfer is evidence. Even the Venmo request for $3,000 with a vague memo line is evidence. And here is the structural problem with the hitman market. A real hitman has no way to advertise. If he advertises, he reveals himself. A customer has no way to verify a hitman is real before paying. And a hitman has no way to guarantee payment after the job, because the customer could simply refuse to pay a person who just committed a felony and has no legal recourse. The entire transaction depends on trust between 2 strangers, both of whom are committing capital crimes, with no contract, no escrow, and no reputation system. That is not a marketplace. That is a trap. And the only people who profit from it are scam artists and the FBI, right after you realize the entire machine is rigged. Now let's talk about the people who tried anyway. Dalia Dippolito, Boynton Beach, Florida, August 2009. 6 months after marrying her husband Michael, Dalia contacted an acquaintance about hiring someone to kill him. The acquaintance went straight to the police. Boynton Beach police introduced an undercover officer posing as a contract killer. They met in a CVS parking lot. When the officer asked Dalia if she was sure, she said she was 5,000% sure. She paid $7,000. What Dalia did not know is that the police had invited a camera crew from the television show Cops to film the entire operation. They staged a crime scene at her home, complete with yellow tape and forensic photographers. When Dalia arrived home from the gym, officers told her Michael had been murdered. She collapsed. She screamed. She cried into an officer's arms. Michael Dippolito was alive, sitting in a police vehicle nearby, watching. The whole thing was on camera. Her arrest was on camera. The moment she learned her husband was alive and it was all a sting operation was on camera. It took 3 separate trials over 8 years to make the conviction stick, because the involvement of a TV crew raised questions about whether the process was fair. But in 2017, Dalia Dippolito was sentenced to 16 years in prison. She is currently at Lowell Correctional Institution in Florida and will not be released until at least 2032. $7,000. Caught on national television. 23 years of her life gone. Dan Markel, Tallahassee, Florida, July 18th, 2014. This one actually happened. Markel was a Harvard-educated law professor at Florida State University. He was in a bitter custody battle with his ex-wife, Wendy Adelson. A judge had ruled that Wendy could not move their 2 young sons from Tallahassee to South Florida to be closer to her family. Her family was unhappy about this. According to prosecutors, Wendy's brother, Charlie Adelson, a wealthy periodontist in Miami, coordinated with his then-girlfriend Catherine Magbanua, who had 2 children with a man named Sigfredo Garcia. Garcia and another man, Luis Rivera, drove from Miami to Tallahassee and shot Markel twice in the head in his garage. He died the next day. The plot cost over $100,000. Prosecutors presented evidence that the Adelson family dental practice issued paychecks to Magbanua, signed by Wendy's mother, Donna Adelson. And then it unraveled. Phone records placed Garcia and Rivera in Tallahassee on the day of the murder. Rivera, arrested on a separate charge, cut a plea deal and described the entire operation to investigators. Magbanua was convicted in 2022. Garcia was convicted in 2019 and sentenced to life. Charlie Adelson was convicted in November 2023 and sentenced to life. Donna Adelson, the 75-year-old matriarch, who prosecutors say authorized and funded the entire thing, was arrested at Miami International Airport in November 2023, attempting to board a one-way flight to Vietnam. She was convicted on all counts in September 2025. First-degree murder, conspiracy and solicitation, life in prison plus 30 years consecutive. 5 people convicted. 11 years of investigation. 1 family completely destroyed, including the 2 children the whole plot was supposedly about, who lost their father, their uncle, and their grandmother to the same crime. $100,000 to disappear 1 person. And instead, every person connected to the money disappeared into the federal and state prison system. Now for the numbers nobody thinks about. Federal murder for hire falls under 18 U.S.C. Section 1958. The penalty structure works like this. If no one is injured, up to 10 years in federal prison and a fine of up to $250,000. If personal injury results, up to 20 years. If death results, life imprisonment or the death penalty. And here is the critical detail. You do not have to succeed. The crime is the solicitation itself. The moment you use an interstate communication, which is your phone, your email, or the internet, to arrange a murder for something of value, the intended victim can be completely unharmed, sitting at home eating dinner with no idea any of this happened, and you are still facing 10 years. In January 2025, a man named Gilles Sutherland, age 58, from Colony, New York, was arrested for using his cell phone to arrange the murder of his romantic rival. He agreed to pay an undercover FBI agent, whom he believed to be a hog farmer, for use of a Pennsylvania farm to dispose of the body by having pigs eat it. He put a dead Canada goose on the victim's mother's doorstep, with a threatening note stuffed in its beak. The victim was never harmed. Sutherland was sentenced to 87 months. In July 2025, a man named Anthony Briante, age 36, was convicted of trying to hire a hitman to murder the federal prosecutor and the FBI special agent who were handling his cyberstalking case, along with the witnesses against him. He paid $40,000 to an undercover agent. He was convicted of attempted murder of a federal employee and murder for hire. Just this week, in July 2026, a CEO in San Diego was arrested after asking undercover federal agents to kidnap and kill a Mexican businessman who owed him money. He offered $40,000 and had already delivered a $5,000 cash deposit. He was charged under Section 1958. These cases are not unusual. They are the norm. The FBI processes 100 to 150 of them every year. Every year. Now let's do the real final math. You want to disappear a person. Here is what it actually costs. The hitman, call it $5,000 to $25,000 if you can find someone real, which you almost certainly cannot. The criminal defense attorney. A federal murder for hire case going to trial starts at $100,000. Complex cases run $200,000 to $300,000. If you are unlucky enough to be in New York or Los Angeles, double it. Federal incarceration. The Bureau of Prisons reported that the average annual cost of incarcerating a federal prisoner in fiscal year 2024 was $47,162. That is your cost per year, paid by taxpayers, for every year you are inside. At 10 years, the minimum for a no-injury case, you have cost the system $471,000. At life, which is what death-resulting cases get, multiply that by however long you survive. Lost income. If you were earning $100,000 a year, 10 years of federal imprisonment represents $1 million in wages that no longer exist. Your career is gone. Your professional licenses are gone. Your reputation is gone. Civil liability. The victim's family will sue you. Wrongful death judgments in the United States commonly reach 7 figures. You will owe this money for the rest of your life, so add it up. $25,000 to the hitman, or to the FBI agent pretending to be a hitman. $150,000 for the lawyer. $471,000 in incarceration costs. $1 million in lost income. Another $1 million or more in civil judgments. The real cost of trying to disappear a person is somewhere north of $2.5 million. And that is the low number. That is if nobody actually dies. If someone dies, the number is your entire life. Every day you have left, spent in a federal facility that costs taxpayers $129 a day to keep you in. And here's the part that should keep you up at night if you have ever, even for a moment, considered this. Everything you have just heard in this video, every case, every arrest, every conviction, started the same way. Someone opened their mouth. They told a friend, searched a website, sent a text message, or made a phone call. And from that moment, every word they said was recorded, every dollar they moved was tracked, and every person they spoke to became a witness. The system is not designed to catch you after. It is designed to catch you before. The FBI's stated goal in murder-for-hire cases is prevention. They want to be in the room, on the wire, or behind the screen before anything happens. And they are. The real product being sold in every murder-for-hire transaction is not a killing. It is your confession, recorded, time-stamped, and admissible in federal court. You are not buying a disappearance. You are buying your own conviction. And the person who disappears is you.